Hello, today I'd like to talk about frustration and anger. And frustration certainly happens a lot when you're coping with ability losses or unexpected illnesses, or, actually a lot of things in life, but certainly when your abilities change, you will encounter a lot of frustrations. Hello, my name is Susan Wheeler Hall. And welcome to my little space on the internet where I talk about the good disabled life. Now today I want to talk about frustration. Now the interesting thing about frustration is it's one of the most frustrating emotions that come up when dealing with disability in particular. But the interesting thing is it actually is something that teaches me a lot of things, and there's three things in particular that it teaches me. It teaches me about patience and about problem solving and persistence. So those three P's are the things that I find that I really try to focus in and look at when I'm encountering something that's really frustrating me. To give you an example, when I was in my early 20s, my dexterity really started to change with my particular neuromuscular disease. And living alone at the time, going to work in an office, and doing buttons up on the blouse became really, really difficult. So in terms of problem solving, I found about 3 ways to do it throughout my changing abilities. I found that if I, put the blouse on the bed and did most of the buttons up by looking at it very carefully and really focusing my finger movement, and then I would put it on and just have the one to really fight with. So that was one way. Another way, it's going to sound crazy, but I used to sometimes put in a shoelace and pull across into the other one. And that took a fair bit of time, but that was real problem solving, and I kept at it, and I probably ended up doing buttons a little longer than most that with the dexterity issue I was dealing with. But then I did find a gadget eventually that was like a little hook thing that goes through, and I did that for quite a long time. But it really was frustrating when these things came up, because something that you would normally take for granted and just do it, and suddenly it becomes really difficult. And there can be a lot of frustration around that. And patience really comes forward because at a certain point you have to really kind of be honest with yourself and just say, this is just too damn hard. And really kind of figure out, do you really need to do this? So, I'd say by the time I was 30, I pretty much gave up blouses and moved to just turtlenecks and regular sweaters. And if you do see me with a blouse, you'll probably see I have snaps. So I prefer the snaps. But yeah, you can either keep coping with the frustration, work your way through it, but at a certain point, you have to realize that, is it worth it? And I kind of break it down into 2 things. And when I get through my 3, being patient and trying to really problem solve and then sticking with it for a little while. But, after a while, like I say, then just kind of give it up. But then I kind of break it down to really realizing, is it a need? Or is it a want? Obviously, where the blouse is concerned, it was more of a want. I mean, obviously you have to be wear clothes, but it didn't need to be a blouse. It could be something different. So that was, one thing in terms of the needs and the wants, is looking at that. But then the other thing that I sometimes do is I negotiate. And so, obviously I'm not going to go negotiate getting dressed. Well, actually I do. No, okay. When it became really difficult for me to go grocery shopping when I was on my own, particularly in the winter. So then what I would do is a friend of mine that had 2 children, I mentioned to her that it was difficult I was finding it difficult to go in the winter to do grocery shopping. And she said she would love to go shopping for me. And I suggested, well, why don't I take, the girls and give you some time alone to shop and do things without having to, have your 2 daughters with you. And she thought that was a great idea. And it was good for me because, I had the opportunity to be with 2 wonderful children and enjoy their company and playing with them. But it also allowed my friends some free time because it's hard to always just ask people to do things for you. So if there's something that you can do in return, then it feels more like an exchange. So it's sort of, it's negotiating, but it's negotiating in a way that is, creating a win-win situation that's being mindful of your feelings, because it is difficult and very frustrating to admit that you can't do something when you could always do it before. So learning to do that kind of soft negotiation, I guess I'll call it, is really helpful. But frustration will always come up. I mean, there's lots of things we get frustrated with in life. But there will be quite a few when you find that you cannot do things like you once did. These days I look outside and, I watch somebody do their gardening or just walk down the street carefree. And not that it was ever carefree for me, but it was certainly more carefree than it is now. And I find myself reflecting and not necessarily frustrated, but I do find myself missing some activity more than others than I ever used to. And I suppose that's part of the aging process as well. But there are a lot of frustrations that will come up when you are coping with illnesses and losses of ability. It's just part of the deal. Part of the deal. So I've learned to get pretty good at kind of reeling in my frustration, because I don't really want to be a negative person. I prefer to be reasonably positive. And the one thing I learned and figured out very, very early is my problem is not necessarily someone else's problem. So, and by that I mean, I take responsibility for my own feelings. So if I'm feeling frustrated, then I need to spend some time and cool down and get a little patient with myself, be gentle. It's pretty easy to say, oh, you're an idiot, you can't do the button up anymore, that kind of thing. So I don't do that kind of thing. I'm just trying to be gentle with myself and really kind of find new ways to do things. Because there always is lots of ways, there's lots of gadgets out there that you don't really know about until you need them. And sometimes it's just a matter of sticking with it and learning how to use a gadget to replace an activity that once, a way that you might have done before. And gadgets are good. I love gadgets. But, it's also really important just to be mindful of what is it you really need or want. Because one of the things I find I often think to myself now is it really is very seldom about need. Because our general needs are taken care of, in where I live anyways, in the world. But it's important just to be gentle with yourself and with those around you. And realize that although people want to help you, I find it really helpful if I can find a way to give back to them. So, I don't know, maybe you found that helpful. But I hope you're not feeling too frustrated with your changes that you're going through. And if you are, share in the comments and let us know how you're coping with things, and you'd be surprised how wonderful it is to learn from other people. So until next time, remember to be gentle with yourself and those around you, and have a look around at some of the other videos. And if you think this would be helpful for somebody else, please share it, and remember to subscribe and like the videos here, because that will help us to spread the love. Bye for now.